Well, this is it for cultivating. This is the only footage I have of me actually doing any of my corn, and I broke the cultivator. Go figure, right before I even started. See, that's why I'm filling these tanks out of the lid ports, because I hooked up to the fill port that's in line along the side of the cultivator, turned it on, or started the motor that morning, and the threads actually blew out on the fill port. So I got that to fix, on top of a couple other things. For those of you who are wondering what's left to work on it, I broke a couple of those, at least one, I think maybe two of those shanks. I'm missing a wheel, and if I get to it this year, I want to go through and actually check the pump, make sure the pump is still working, because I'm not entirely sure if I'm getting the full rate out of it. Excuse me. Also, the fertilizer line that goes between the tanks, that heavy line, I want to redo it, especially the fill line that's built in line on it. I need a check valve plus the fill port. I actually want to spin it around 180 degrees so it's actually pointing out the back, because it's easier to back up to this tank than it is to try to drive up at an awkward angle and then wrestle the hose up to it. So I don't know. One of those things you learn after you've done this job for a while. And I'm able to fill just this one tank. I'm not filling it completely full. I'm only putting about, it'll hold about 140 gallons. I'm putting probably about 110 in for this reason. We are on a hill, and because I don't have any kind of check valve in there, all of the fertilizer on the upper side of the hill likes to transfer over to the tank on the lower side. And then when that tank gets full, it likes to bubble out, run out of the lid, which is really not what I want. So it looks like I'm knocking down a lot of corn, and it looks absolutely terrible. Well, I do have some corn that's missing outright. This is the field that I didn't get to, well, the last field that I was chiseling in, and I didn't chisel the last 10 acres of it just because it felt like our chisel plow was literally leaving parts and pieces all across the field. Got tired of fighting it. So Dad went out and he hit it with a VT that same day, worked the stalks down, and then a week later we came back and we hit it once more before I planted it. Now it seems like that I'm knocking a lot of plants over with the dirt, and it just looks absolutely terrible. Believe it or not, as long as the plants aren't broken off or just completely knocked over, they might look like they're kind of knocked over, pushed over to the side, but the plants actually came out of it. They will come out of it. This video was taken, well, it's been a little while now, but I can't say, it's been less than a week. But I went and checked the field after 2 days, and the corn, you can't even tell that I cultivated it, as regard to any like corn really missing. The corn shot up. 2 days after I had gotten done, I wouldn't have been able to actually drive through this field. It took off that much. So I did leave a test strip, check strip. But here's my problem with check strips. You can go through, in my years of farming, I found out that you go through and you leave a check strip and you look back and say, all right, I gained 5 bushels, or I lost 10 bushels, or I didn't gain anything. But the thing is, we don't get a consistent year in, year out, the exact same growing year. Every year has its own challenges, all right? So what works one year might not work at all the next year, and what happens the following year isn't even an option. It is absolutely required that you should probably go out and do whatever. That means everything from fungicide to Y dropping to cultivating, side dressing, anhydrous, going through and doing anhydrous as your main nitrogen source, or broadcasting it, or going through and top dressing in season. There's so many variables that goes into farming. It's just getting to the point where you have to figure out what works best for you, for your operation, and what you're content with doing and incorporating into your season, your year. And cultivating for me is one of them, where, all right, it may not help this year, it did help last year, and then let's go back to the check strip. I may find out that I gained or lost 10 bushels to the acre. Is that going to mean that next year I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to do everything else? Well, I would have liked to done all my acres. I just was trying to make hay this year. So this is the only field that I really got around to doing it, and that was just because we got done with the hay that we had down soon enough that I had a chance to do this. So let me catch my breath. Trying to say too much in too short amount of time. Would going through and finding out that I lost money, lost yield by cultivating, turn me away from cultivating? No, because what doesn't work this year may be exactly what the doctor ordered next year. That's my problem with test strips and seeing what worked and what didn't. Generally, it's viewed as a rear view looking glass. That yes, for this year, for this past year, it did or did not help. Going forward, then it typically turns into, hey, you better get out there and cultivate. You got some weeds coming up that didn't get taken out by the sprayer, because that is also what I was doing with this cultivator. I was knocking out weeds that were coming up. I did not like our one pass spray program. I wasn't really all that impressed by it. So that aside, cultivating was necessary this year. You can see the planter wasn't, either I turned it off too soon or picked it up, whatever. Where we didn't chisel plow, I can see it clear as day in the field where I had quit chisel plowing. The cultivator was set to actually dig. I got the top link on the tractor set back, so it's tilted back. So the rear shank, the farthest back shank, it's actually got a sweep on it for throwing dirt up towards the row. It covers the liquid that I'm putting down, which is where I have the tube set. So they are ahead of that sweep, so that way I'm covering the liquid I'm putting down, so I don't have to worry about it evaporating or not getting any rain and getting down to the roots. At least it's covered with soil, so it's a little protected. Also, that sweep throws dirt, any weeds, anything that may be coming up, starting up. Ideally, the dirt rolls up against the corn plant, not knocking the corn plant over, and it knocks out any of the weeds that may be coming up and causing yield loss, right? So that's the issue. Also, as far as part of the field where I did not chisel, the corn is stunted, the corn is yellower, the corn, it is farther behind than the rest of the field. The cultivator, clear as day, where I had actually gone into where I didn't chisel, it did not want to go into the ground. Going from where I'm at right now in this clip here, the field was chiseled and it sinks right in, no problem at all. It actually works the tractor a little bit, which, I mean, the older iron, why not? I mean, let them work. On the same settings, getting to the lower side of the field, the cultivator just wanted to skim along the ground. And the only difference is I could see where I hadn't worked the soil, it wasn't loosened up. And it showed. I felt it on the tractor. I could see it on the cultivator. I'm not really super duper crazy about the 100% pure no-till. I do like tillage. This field is corn on corn. That right there is probably where I like seeing your full out fall tillage, primary tillage, chiseling in the fall, incorporated the best. And well, here is a pretty good example of how dry we were. Making up a dust storm. It's a make your own dust machine, I guess, but it really didn't bother me. I mean, the ground was dry. It worked up where it wanted to work up really nice. It beats just churning up mud, you know. And although it does look like I'm being kind of aggressive to the corn plants, they're kind of having to lean over a little bit there. They're fine. It actually didn't hurt them at all. And there's a good example right there behind the tanks. There's 2 rows that are stunted and look like crud. That is from me trying to get a bunch of corn fodder made off this field last fall. Couldn't get it dry. In the end, I left the windrows in the field until I went through and chiseled it this spring. Took my knees out from under me. It affected the emergence. I imagine from the looks of it, when I was trying to chisel it even, the ground stayed colder because we did plant this a week after I chiseled the field up so that windrow of corn stalks kept the ground insulated to the point where it didn't warm up. It kept it wetter, and it cost me yield without a doubt. So trying to make corn fodder in December didn't really go my way. So well, on that fact, I'm actually going to try to maybe make some soybean stubble this fall, so you guys might be able to look forward to that. So the cultivator needs a little bit of work. Just got to get the parts found for it. I do believe I got to go through Sloan's Express. I saw them at one point, but I got to find them. So yeah, as far as conventional tillage, corn on corn, absolutely. Corn going into beans, I actually don't mind leaving it, and then just hitting it with the VT or the disc in the spring, and then planting into it helps the ground warm up a little bit. I do chisel soybean stubble going into corn sometimes too, especially if I got manure spread on it, or I have a farm that the ground just gets hard regardless. And I gotta go. This is the end of the video. Talk to you later. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. Thanks for watching, guys.